Yo, what's up everybody? PBM or Polar Bear Mike here. Today I'm just going to be doing the good old patch note review for patch 4.18 coming out on PC tomorrow or Tuesday, September 26th, blah blah blah. Boring ass intro, let's get into it. So skins, all this stuff, doesn't really matter. Ice Cream Ymir's pretty troll, pretty funny skin. Got some new Odyssey stuff. The Ymir skin is in there. I think that's, yeah, the Ymir skin is in there. A couple bonus items, blah, blah, blah. Some more Odyssey stuff. Got achievements for Hachiman, Project Olympus. I don't really know what this is all about. Sector C and small adjustment that will greatly improve visibility in SPL, blah, blah, blah. Health bars and spectator were dark, making it difficult. Okay, so that's just gonna, like, be stuff that you see in broadcasts and stuff like that. Whatever. Miscellaneous, just fixes. These are just like updating the description of everything. Same with gods, bug fixes, all that crap. Fixing the issue where the visual effects of this ability were continuing even when the ability was cancelled or interrupted. You know, just fixing a bunch of small graphical bugs, that type of thing. Ancile, or Ancile, I don't know how you want to say it, but this is the first item change and first item balance of the patch. Increased physical power from 25 to 40 and decreased protection from 60 to 50. So it's going to make it more of an offensive option, so it'll be more of that like bruiser playstyle, whereas if you were a warrior and you wanted to buy this item, 25 power isn't really that much. You don't really value that, so you'd rather just go like Pestilence or Genji's or something. Now you're going to get a lot more damage, so it'll be like a more aggressive option, and maybe the proc will be good. Personally, I still don't think this item is good, but you might see it played in a few like niche matchups or whatever. Atalanta's Bow, increased attack speed from 20 to 25. The item is still just bad. There's not really room for this type of item in the current Hunter builds. You need Lifesteal to deal with Nemean and Thorns combo. You need Shred to deal with tanks being in your face, so you need like Executioner Kin size. You can also go crit instead, but there's just nowhere to put this. If you put this in your build, you lose out on a crit item if you're going crit. If you put it in a build with Shred, you're building this instead of like Kin's or Titan's Bane, and that just doesn't make sense either. So basically the item's still not good, and the passive one isn't really even worth building for. It's not like old Fatalis at all, so that's just how that goes. Chronos Pendant, decrease the cost from 2,900 to 2,750. I think this item mainly gets helped in casuals with this change. I don't really think it's that strong of an item, and the reason I don't think it's that strong of an item is because, in my opinion, CDR is a pretty overrated stat in most cases. Maybe you see this item built on Morrigan a little bit earlier. She's really the only mage that could use that CDR early because their ult is such a long cooldown. But even then, I don't really think that you need to do that. You're more than likely just going to continue seeing the same mage builds where you go Book of Thoth, and then you have Boots, and then you go like Urchin or a pen item, then you go Obshard, then you go, you know, whatever. Also, this music is getting really loud, and that's not how it's supposed to be. But, yeah, you probably still won't see it built that much more, but late game, once you get like 5th, 6th item, and you have your Rod of Tahuti, Chronos Pendant's a little cheaper, you get the power spike a little bit quicker, and it's definitely really good at that point in the game. Witchblade, I'm really excited for this change. I love this change. Remove 15% lifesteal and added 10% cooldown reduction, not crowd control reduction, cooldown reduction, which means that its stats will be like, I think it's only 100 health, maybe it's 200 health, but you know, it's health, cooldown reduction, you have the anti-attack speed aura, you have movement speed on it. So suddenly this becomes, you might even look at this in place of boots sometimes. You'll see supports, which is what I care about, be able to pick it up a lot more. I mean, 10% CDR is an infinitely better stat than 15% lifesteal for pretty much any bruiser, and these are the people that are going to be building this item. You're having the bruisers, the warriors, and the guardians building this Witchblade. You're not going to have carries do it, and yeah, because of that, the 15% lifesteal didn't really matter. 10% cooldown reduction is huge, and I think I'm going to have to play with this item a lot. I think you could build it maybe early. I don't know if you could replace boots with it. Probably not, because boots are insane. And you can certainly see it Maybe if you go like Boots, Urchin, you could certainly see like a Witchblade there afterwards. I don't know what the best builds will be with it, but definitely a really good item now. Balance for Gods. Artio gets a couple nerfs. Decompose her passive. This stacks up to 8 times. So her previous protection debuff full stacked was 24%. That is now going to be 16%, 2 per stack. So pretty significant nerf. Just gives Artio a bit less shred. So if you're playing her in the soul lane and you have full CDR and you just start spamming your abilities at people, you won't be chunking them as hard, even without penetration like you were before. Life Tap and Heavy Charge, this is her 3, so it is her slow into root, and then it's her dash. Increase the cooldown of both of those abilities, or I guess just this ability in general, by 2 seconds. Again, another big deal, especially for soul lane. This is the cooldown on your escape for ganks, and it's the cooldown on your main sustain tool in lane. Most people in soul lane max her 3, and you heal off of that, so reducing the amount of time you can heal. This means that effectively, when you have it 15 seconds, you can use it off cooldown, right? Use it on the wave, then use it to poke somebody, then use it on the next wave, because waves are 30 seconds between. Now there's like that 4-second buffer time where if you use it on the wave and between the wave, you're going to have to give up lane pressure because your cooldown's not long enough and then you can't like clear it as quick, so there's little small stuff like that that matters. I'm not a soul laner, but I would guess this is a pretty big deal. And when I'm support with Artio, and I'm not building as much cooldown reduction as soul laners are able to, having the dash cooldown reduction like this really hurts. Overall, I think Artio is still strong. I just don't think she's like completely busted, and I expect her casual performance to go down a good bit because of this. So, good changes. Camazot's Screech, this is his 1. Decrease physical power buff from 20 to 40 to 10 to 30, so a total of 10 physical power decrease at all ranks. This is really significant in the early game, actually. I think is when it's most valuable. Going from 20 to 10 power is a big deal. 20 power in the early game off of your 1 is what was making Camazot's early game so good. You couldn't fight him, basically, because this was like an additional bluestone. So he would have bluestone, which I think is like 15 or 20 power. I think it's 15. And then on top of that, he ones you, and then he catches it and gains more power. And it's like more power than you could even build at level 1 without it almost. So, really insane that he was able to do that. It made his autos chunk, it made his wave clear really good. That now gets nerfed a good bit. Vampire Bats decrease the initial damage from 70 to 270, and then from 70 to 230. So Camazot's 2 has 2 parts. It has the initial damage, which is what is getting nerfed here. Excuse me if my voice is bad, I talked a lot yesterday, so I'm sorry about that. It has the initial damage here, and then it has the dot damage, so this is only 40 off the initial. The previous total damage of Camazot's 2 was 420 damage. It is now 380 damage, and that's all on the front end, so that's basically the nerf. Still a really good ability. This ability combo is still insanely strong for Camazot's. It'll just hit for, you know, a little bit less in the late game once you have both of these maxed. You won't be like one-shotting people with both of these abilities. Kuzenbo. It's Kuzenbo, dude. Like, there's not really much to talk about here. These are pretty significant nerfs. This is a 3 Sumo Slam, decrease the cooldown from 16 to 12 to 12 at all ranks. With CDR, this is actually a pretty big deal because you get to spam your dash a little bit more. This is like one of the lowest cooldown dashes in the game, but I think it's still a weak ability. It's still a really weak ability. And then Watery Grave, decrease the cooldown from 100 to 75. Again, I still don't think it's a strong ability. I think Kuzenbo's kit is just garbage, mostly. And it has been proven to basically be garbage, because despite the amount of insane, despite the amount of insane buffs the god gets, he still gets no play. These are 2 really, really good buffs, and I still think he's, like, really bad just because his kit is so trash. So, yeah, I don't know. I hate Kuzenbo. He's still bad. Don't think otherwise. It's wrong. Get fucked. Ratatosker Flurry, increased physical power scaling from 20 to 25% per tick. So, a lot more power for him. This is a 20% increase from damage, right? Because Each tick had 20% scaling of his power, now it's 25, so that's 20% if you hit every single tick. Same thing with the increased protection shred from 2 to 4 to now 2 to 6. This went from 16 protection shred to 24 protection shred, so a 20% scaling increase and 8 more prot shred on Ratatasker's 2 is a really big deal. This is his main damaging ability, so to see it get buffs like this help the character a lot. I actually think Rat was pretty underplayed. If those of you who have watched me stream or whatever, I've actually played him support a few games and I've had a lot of fun with it. And I really don't think this god is bad, and just people haven't really been picking him. So I think maybe Ratatosker will come back after these slight adjustments or whatever. Scotty, this is a big one that everyone wanted to see get nerfed. Scotty has been broken for a while. She's been so dominant in competitive play and high-level ranked. I'm not really sure about casuals or low-level ranked, but this character has been busted. Rune of the Hunt, Rune of the Hunt, same thing. This is her dog. Decrease Caldier's dash damage. So this is like you put your 2 on somebody, and then Caldier gains that initial dash attack. That dash attack used to have 150% of your basic attack damage. It is now 130% of your basic attack damage. This is still a fuck ton of damage. It's a ton of damage, but you can just look at it as like a 20% scaling nerf, which is a big nerf in general, but it's still going to chunk you really, really fucking hard. So if you're still in lane, or you're like a mage late game, and Scotty puts her dog on you, you're still going to get hit for like 500 damage or whatever, but at least it's not 600, so getting a little bit better there. Overall, good nerf. I don't think you absolutely want to kill the dog because it's a really important part of her kit. So there's that. And then Permafrost, this is her 3. This is like one of the most annoying abilities in the game. Decrease the radius from 16 to 24 to 16 to 20. And obviously you can see the number adjustments are a little bit different there, because instead of going 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, it's 16, 16, 18, 18, 20. So you really have to invest points into this if you want to get the larger radius. I think people used to max their 1 and then their 3. This is actually a really big change. I mean, her total radius that she had is equivalent to her rank 3, which wasn't that big, and once you see it in game, you'll notice how big of a nerf this is. You might even see people start maxing the 2 over the 3 now. I'm not sure about that, because I don't know how the damage works, but yeah, pretty big nerfs to Scotty. And here is another pretty big nerf that people have been freaking out about, but I think people are wrong. So I'll explain this one a little bit more in depth, because this is my shit right here. This is my bread and butter. So Terra Monolith, this is her 3. Remove the root from the Monolith Shatter. So when you 3 and then you dash through it, that will no longer root. It will now slow enemies by 30% for 1.5 seconds and increase the Monolith's hit points from 3 to 5. So there are people saying that Terra is going to be dead after this, and you are just completely wrong if you are one of those people, and I'll explain why. One, the reason this character gets picked, despite all of the nerfs she's got, because she's gotten nerfs to her damage, she's gotten nerfs to her 2, she has gotten nerfs to her 3 multiple times, she's gotten nerfed to the healing on both her 3 and her ult, and she's gotten nerfed with the cooldown of her ult. And I think her passive was nerfed as well. That used to be doing more damage, your auto attacks with your Monolith up. She has gotten a ton of nerfs since she's been released. And she's still, and she will be after this, still one of the best supports. And the reason for it is because her ult is freaking insane. Just like the cooldown that it gives people, the movement speed especially that it gives people, is completely insane. And because of all that, Terra will still be played. This, you know, quote-unquote nerf, which is a big nerf in most situations, can actually be a buff in some situations. So, early game laning phase, the root used to be a 1-second root. The slow lasts 1.5 seconds, so their total amount of time CC'd actually goes up half a second. A slow is nowhere near as strong as a root, but it's still really good, and if you're combining this with your auto attack, they're going to be really slowed for, you know, over 1.5 seconds with your auto attacks chained in there. And that's a really big deal. What that means is that you can body block people a little bit harder, you can keep them chain CC'd, you can keep them in, for example, your 2 used to have a slow, it used to be a lot easier to hit. You could hit your 2 off of your root. Now what you can do is you can put your 2 down, and you can, like, slow people inside of it, and you can just keep auto-attacking them to, like, keep them chain slowed inside your 2, and then you just pop your 2 on them before they walk out, and you just have them chain CC'd there for a long time. Like, her combo is still really insane. In the early game, like I said, it can actually be longer. In lane, this is a big deal. For anyone who has played Terra versus Ganesha in duo lane, you'll notice that a lot of the times when you try to 3-1 the wave, the Ganesha will just 2 you, and while they 2 you, if the ADC is a good player, they'll just hit your monolith, and then they'll kill your monolith before you can dash it after the Ganesha silence. Now that it takes 2 more auto attacks, that will no longer happen. They will not be able to auto attack that monolith and kill it, so you will get your root off every single time in lane versus Ganesha. That helps her matchup in that lane so much, and that makes her an even more dominant laner than she already is. Same thing if you're using the monolith to sustain your team. If you're using it to heal, it'll no longer get taken away as quickly, so you can use it for healing a little bit more effectively. If you're playing against a Fafnir and a Fafnir is in his dragon form and you want to place your 3 down and then dash it, his breath won't instantly kill the damn monolith before you dash through it. So these are big changes to Terra, but they are not killing her at all. Like, in some cases, it really does actually make her better. I think she'll still feel really good to play. I think she's still really good. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thoth, just a slight adjustment here. Thoth, basically, his ult is going to one-shot a little bit less late game because the scaling decrease is 20%. But in the early game and the mid game and everything, you can fire it quicker without having to full charge it, which means that it's a little less telegraphed because people don't hear you charge it. You can, like, instantly do the ability and then, like, cancel it into, like, your 2 or your 1 to just get, like, more burst damage in a short period of time. So, just kind of, like, a style tweak for Thoth. So he won't be this whole, like, charge it up one-shot people as much. He'll still be able to do that, but you also have the option to, you know, just do more initial damage and just instant fire it almost. And then the last change is Tier. Decrease the mana cost on Fearless from 60 to 80 to 50 to 70, so a 10 mana decrease at all ranks. And then change stance, decrease the cooldown from 14 to 10 to 12 to 10, so it's 12, 12, 11, 11, 10. Pretty big changes for Tier. This allows him to box and lane a little bit better, change his stances more frequently. In the late game, it's the exact same thing, 10 seconds, no big deal. In the early game, however, it helps you lane a lot more, and it helps you go ahead and take advantage of, I guess, go ahead and take advantage of, like, your whole kit and use it to trade a little bit more and all that good stuff. And that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching the patch notes. Hope I gave good information. You guys learned some stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty good patch overall. I like all the changes, and I'm excited to play with them. So I will see you guys next time. Hope you all have a good day, and peace out.